Hello there everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Joesephyr and welcome to another Should You Pull video for Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia. Now I've been away for a week, obviously I've still had my videos uploaded and everything, but I haven't streamed or anything in a week, and you can see I've come back with a new look. I've come back with some exciting stuff that I want to share with you guys, but today we're going to be talking about the next burst character that's going to be coming out for Dissidia, and it's going to be Terra, provided of course that due to this being filmed before the community stream happens on Monday, that nothing surprising comes around. But today we're going to be talking about Terra, who is an absolute terror when it comes to magic damage, because she has it in droves. And she's also joined by Basch, who has their LD boards coming up and has some nice exciting things happening for them as well. So if that's all stuff that you guys are interested in, as well as finding out more about the event that comes with Terra, then of course as always, stay tuned and keep on watching. Now before we get started, don't forget to check out all of my social media links in the description box below, including Twitter, Twitch, Discord and Patreon. On Twitch I actually have some very exciting stuff coming up. I'm going to be doing a sponsored stream for Nier Replicant version 1.22 this evening, which is very exciting, and it's a game I've been really looking forward to, and I'm still very honoured to be able to support Square Enix and what they do, and the fact that they support this channel as well for things that are not relating to Opera Omnia as well is very validating. So a massive shout out and thank you goes out to the guys there as well. With Patreon, I've actually started uploading some behind the scenes footage for my patrons as well, so that you guys can get a bit more of a sense of what goes on from this side of the camera, and I've really enjoyed doing that. So that's another extra little thing that I've been doing with Patreon as well. And I also shout out one of my patrons every time I release a video as well. So today that person is going to be Miss Eden Wang, who, having spoken to them on Patreon, they were a massive fan of Drag Race, and we all know I'm a massive fan of Drag Race, and I won't spoil it for everybody, but a big congratulations to the winner of Season 13. Very well deserved, must say. And so yeah, if you would like benefits such as seeing some of that behind the scenes footage, being involved in voice chats that we all do together, being a part of Would You Pull, all sorts of benefits, then perhaps you might like to consider having a look at my Patreon page with the link down below, and perhaps supporting the channel a little bit further. And I thank you very much for that in advance if you decide to do so. I do also have another thing, and I know this intro is long and I apologise, but this is a giveaway that I've been planning for a little while, and I finished it over my week off. Well, I started and finished it over my week off. And it's going to be starting on Monday, so when the community stream hits I shall upload it then, and I'll make sure that everyone has plenty of opportunities to enter this if you would like. But I've been exploring my love for painting recently, and this Alexander painting that is completely hand painted by me could well be yours if you decide to enter that giveaway. So it would be lovely, and if you do win it, then I'd love to see where you hang it up and everything. It's something that's very personal to me, so I'd really like to make that connection with you guys over something like that. And then lastly, of course, don't forget to check out all of the other content creators that there are for Dissidia, and all the wonderful resources there are out there that I myself use when doing my research for these videos, so be sure to check out all of the links in the description box for them as well. So before we get started on looking at Terra, let's take a quick look at Basch and what he gets with the new LD boards that he's got coming available. But before we even do that, let's take a look at the banners and what's exactly coming on them. So the banner that contains Basch, both of the banners will have Terra's burst on them, not both of them will have the rest of her stuff on it. But the one that has Basch on it obviously has all of his kit, Terra's burst weapon that's brand new, and then Rydia and Vayne, who's also along for the ride as well with their EXs. And then the second banner, which is Terra's primary banner, has all of her stuff on it, so her burst, her LD, her EX, etc. And also has Porum and Vanille EX on there as well. So very much like, you know, damage dealers with a side of support on that one. But let's have a quick look at Basch. Now, if you haven't seen Basch before, and like I have spoken about Basch before on this channel, and I've really enjoyed him in the past, and I'm actually going to take a slightly different approach here, because I'm going to take a look at the wonderful infographic that the Tonberry Troop posts here, so we can take a look at what Basch has had up until this point. And if you haven't seen it all before, then definitely screenshot this so you can get a good impression as to what his abilities do exactly. But Basch's primary function is as an AoE damage tank. So he reduces the amount of damage he takes bravery and HP, and he basically makes it so that any AoE attacks are redirected right directly to him, as is seen here with the Kingdom Shield buff. Now basically what his LD did, and is really very beneficial to him, is that it gives him the Indomitable buff. Now, Indomitable means that basically he can't die. If his HP ever goes below 50%, and he has Last Stand, he immediately restores his HP straight back to 50%. So basically, while he has that buff up, he is unable to die. He's also got some pretty nice auras, like, you know, buffs that come from his EX, which is a fast casting EX as well, so that's really nice. The fact that it heals him, it's got double HP dumps in there. He's got battery and healing in the rest of his kit, and obviously lock that goes off of his skill 1 and his indomitable attack as well. So you've got ways of tanking with Basch. And then with regards to the LD boards, he does actually get some quite nice stuff from this as well. So his LD board basically turns Indomitable Palisade into a double HP dump. It gives it a much greater healing ability than any of his other abilities by making it that you restore 80% of the damage you deal up to half the health that you restore. So it's a really big heal. And you also get extra effects on Indomitable, which increase the bravery damage, like any bravery damage he deals by 30%, which is fantastic. And it also gives a party bravery battery based on their HP while on Basch's turn, and it also makes Indomitable last longer, which is really good. Like, Indomitable's a really powerful buff. The thing with Basch, and I do really like Basch, and as someone who already has him, I will probably get more use out of him because of this LD board, but there's a lot more tanks out there now than there used to be. Like, Gladiolus is around, Celeste is around. If you've got those characters, I don't think you necessarily need to go for Basch. He's a great character, and I think that if you've got like an absolute sort of, you know, overflow of resources, there's nothing wrong with pulling for him. But this is actually quite a nice period to be saving, except for Terra. So if you can get away with not pulling for Basch, then I would suggest perhaps doing so, because if you're going to throw resources at one of the two characters on these banners, chances are it's not going to be Basch unless you're really hurting for tanks. So now let's take a look at Terra. Now Terra, poor girl, has gone through more reworks than Zac Efron's face right now, and like since the 35 CP era, or even the 15 CP era, she's just gone through rework and rework and rework and rework. The only other character I can think of that has as many as she does is Bart, and they're like, they benefit from them a lot. Although, since the EXs sort of came around, Terra did fall to the wayside a fair amount because her EX at first was extremely underwhelming, and by the time her EX Plus came out, other characters just shone brighter than she did. But her kit, on paper, looks horrifically complicated. Like, you see this, it's like, wow, this affects at this level, well, this level, blah, 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 blah. It looks really complicated. Let me just tell you, it's really not. Terra is a damage dealer. She is a pure damage dealer that likes to take a lot of turns. She has some slight debuffs on her main skills, but she's just there to deal damage. Basically, she has a special effect called Magic, which like hovers above her head like other special effects do, and it levels up to a maximum of 9, as like with her Bravery Plus, her HP Plus, and the basic versions of Meltdown and Meteor. However, you're probably never going to really need to use the basic versions of Meltdown and Meteor because her EX and her LD also charge that up, so you won't even need to worry about it. And while you have at least 5 of these stacks out of 9, they turn into plus versions of themselves, which are just stronger, hit harder, and do more, and just do more bravery hits and things like that. So they're the way that's the way that you're meant to use Terra, like without the LD and the burst and everything factored in. She does actually have a rework as well. Now both of her skills got 2 additional uses, so she has 8 uses of each now. And even the basic skills have more bravery hits. So Meltdown, for example, whether you're using Magic Meltdown by having the extra stacks that you then use up and you can build back up again, etc. They're now 4 hits, but the potency buff on the Magic Meltdown is really powerful. And she does a Brave gain before she does the attack as well on this attack. So the fact that she can kind of circumvent a lot of different sort of damage mitigators is a real plus for her, because she does Brave gain, she does Brave refund, she does like a lot of bravery hits. She kind of just does a lot when it comes to damage dealing. Now, a lot of people would like, I've even said it myself in the past, where damage dealers are considered like the easiest ones to be power crept, and I understand that, but equally, sometimes if a character is that good at dealing damage, like lightning, like cloud, etc., within their lane, that is the utility of their kit. The fact that you can just take her as your primary damage dealer and then not worry so much about some of the other characters, and whether you can take weaker characters that have stronger benefits, characters like Sarah, that's a benefit in and of itself. And then going back to her skills, Meteor has also got another 2 skill uses, as I said earlier. And the Bravery hits become AoE, where they weren't before. So Meltdown is a Brave Gain AoE, like splash damage AoE attack, whereas a Meteor is a AoE Bravery attack with a single target damage. But it also has 2 HP dumps in it. So that's actually really nice as well. Failing that, you can actually use her C65 to charge her magic, so you're always using her Magic Meteor or Magic Meltdown, because that makes a big difference for her. Her EX plus, like Riot Blade was literally originally just a 3-hit Brave HP attack. That was literally all it did. But when it got its EX plus, it got a really nice kind of increase to its recast speed. So the primary reason that you're going to use this now is the fact that you get a buff Esper Blood, which is a sort of really nice thing that gives her more initial bravery and attack, because she regens a lot of her own bravery and obviously hits harder. But you're also going to recharge your magic stacks straight back up to maximum, straight up to 9, so you can use 2 uses of her magic skills, so by which point you've then recharged her EX, and then you should never really have to use the basic versions of her skills anymore. And then she also has a Brave Plus and an HP Plus, and the HP Plus is a 6-hit Brave HP attack, which increases her magic, her special effect magic by 3. So if you're really desperate, 6-hit Brave HP ain't nothing to sniff at when she's doing, like, the hits themselves aren't the most potency based, but there's ways of getting around that, and you can still deal a decent amount of damage. And then Riot Blade also, after you've maxed it out with the EX, it also gives a transformed HP Plus into Dual Cast, which is basically the same as her HP Plus, just executed twice, and you don't get magic stacks off of it. So you can still use that as well. There's lots of avenues for you to take when it comes to using her basic kit, and where you should really just have large amounts of her magic stacks as much as physically possible. Now, her LD is very exciting. Her LD is just very powerful. It does double HP dump, which we always enjoy. She also gets a buff on this, which stinks of lightning and Varn. Now, she gets 4 turns of this, so she gets 4 turns of no skill use, no turn count increase, 4 turns in a row for 3 turns, and her special effect magic doesn't drop while she's doing it. So you can literally spam whatever you want with her. Just magic meltdowns for days, magic meteors for days. Just keep going and going and going. And she also gets brave regen while she's doing it. Like, she gets brave regen from this, or like on its own. And then the actual buff itself also increases the amount of HP damage she deals. It refunds her bravery, which is really, really nice after each attack, which, you know, as we've seen with lightning in the past, you can then just keep going. Your momentum just keeps going, which is fantastic. And you just keep hitting harder and harder and harder over the course of time, and because you're getting 4 turns of it, you're just dealing a lot of damage. There's no bells and whistles with it, like lightning with her re-breaks or anything like that. It's just raw damage, and you're going to get a lot of it. And then finally, she has a burst as well. And again, her burst for her Terra is really nice because it plays into what she does already, which is give her a bunch of free turns. And the fact that you get the unconditional love buff at the end, love buff just sounds really weird in my head, at the end, that you can do at the end, so you could do Chaos Wave at the end, and then you can just get more free turns afterwards as well, means that she just goes on and on and on and on. And the actual effect itself is you deal 20% more damage to anything that's broken, and that lasts for 10 turns because obviously Terra likes to take a lot of free turns. Like, she's going to get some at the end of her burst regardless because of her love buff. And but 10 turns of extra damage is nice for the party regardless, and she's a damage dealer. That's the sort of thing that she's going to be doing. So having it, and I think that it being an entrance for Trance Terra as well is going to make a lot of FF6 fans really go off. And it is really nice. Like, if you want a damage dealer, there are certain characters that Terra pairs up with that are absolutely revolting, including Yang, who comes out sort of later on in May. Like, if you pair them up together, you can deal so much damage, it's not even funny. Or even if you wanted to take Noctis with his burst and then just use Terra's LD. Largely, I think the thing with Terra's burst is that you don't necessarily need it, because her LD is so powerful on its own that you can just carry it through that. Obviously, if you get the burst, it's an extra use of the LD at absolute worst. But because bursts, trust me, bursts, certainly for me at least, have been exceptionally rare, and I haven't pulled one since February. So while I would really like this, I would very much like Terra's burst. I'm just gonna gun for her LD to begin with, and I'll see how I feel when that happens. Now, Terra's LD boards are actually very dull. Like, they just increase her damage. There's, like, all of the stuff that's meaty on it is in the base LD kit. It just increases damage, basically. More brave hits, bit more potency, get some bravery in between the hits. You kind of know how that goes at this point. In terms of LD call, etc., I actually quite like Terra's call abilities because they're quite... If you want somebody that's there to do bravery shaving, you're not going to get much better as a call than Terra, because you get 15 hits of bravery from her regular magic meteor call, and you get a speed down debuff off of it as well. I should have also mentioned you get a defense down debuff from her meltdown attack, so that's just a nice little extra to have. Nothing to build around, but it's nice to have. And then the Chaos Wave buff gives you the call effect that if you've ever used Camlanaught's LD call, it's very similar to that, where you refund bravery. And on certain characters, this is actually very powerful. Like, I've used Camlanaught's LD call on Cloud a lot, and it's been absolutely fantastic. And Terra's one is very similar, and also has the big brave hits as well. Like, you get the HP, double HP attack on the LD call, etc. And getting the magic attack up and then that. Certain characters, like, I'm looking at Kuja, and characters like that, where you can just... It's only once per turn, but the amount of damage you deal with a character like him in one go means that you can refund it and set yourself up for the next turn, and that can actually be very strong. Terra has the attack keystone on her high armor. Shock horror. Yes, you're probably going to want this. And then in terms of artifacts, artifacts-wise, she was one of the first characters. Trance boost is really nice. Like, it gives her all of her buffs, like, as long as she's got HP max at the start of the wave. She's definitely going to want attack, but I think there's arguments to be had for initial bravery now as well, because she has the bravery gen that goes with her LD, etc. I think there's arguments to be made for that as well, but honestly, as long as you get the attack, I don't really think anything else matters, and Trance gives you more attack, so you probably still want to go with that. So now let's take a look at the event that's coming along with Terra, which is the next story chapter, and is going to feature at the end of that. And the last time we had a story chapter was with Onion Knight and the Medusa Heads. Is this as bad as that one? No, provided you have the correct party members for it. So you're fighting against Humbarbers. Now, I hate these things. They do loads of delay, they do loads of really nasty things, even just basic versions of them. So a Lufenia one with them, I'm not looking forward to fighting myself. But the Lufenia Orb appears at 80% HP, or under 80% HP, and it stays there. It sticks around until they die. But the key to beating it is non-elemental magic damage, which gives you +4 turns to it. So realistically, this is a case of building your team around the fight rather than actually having to keep an eye on the fight itself and the orb. But not only does this matter for the sake of non-elemental magic damage for the Lufenia Orb, but at under half HP, if you do an elemental attack, you're going to get hurt. Like, a lot. They counter you with a delaying, dispelling, cleansing attack. You cannot take elemental damage to this. You just can't. So don't bother trying. But you also need to take characters that take a lot of turns. These guys like to put up an aura that frames their turn. They can't be delayed, they can't have their turn deleted, and they can't even be delayed by breaking while they're doing that. They gain some shield, they gain sort of bravery out of it, and they do actually drop their defenses only to magic attacks. So it's all built, the whole thing is built around non-elemental magic damage. So it is custom tailor-made for Terra, essentially. But Terra's not the only one that can do this kind of thing, because Ultimisia and Emperor are also very strong non-elemental magic damage dealers. The reason that Terra kind of shines, however, is that the way you get rid of the aura that makes it so that they've got all of these horrible buffs and makes it so that their turns can't delayed, etc., is that you are supposed to take 8 turns in a row without them getting one. And obviously, if they can't be delayed or anything like that, then you have to kind of figure out ways to take lots of turns before they do. Because if you don't, you get Needle Shot ++, which is a dispelling, nasty HP attack that you don't want to deal with. We've seen it loads of times from previous encounters with Humbarbers, and if you can avoid it, then it's better too. So You can actually tank this as well, because you've got characters like Basch, who are obviously synergy, who can do tanking on stuff, but you don't really want to be getting dispelled buffs when you're relying on a character like Basch, so it's still important to take those 8 turns first. Terra obviously just goes, I have 4 turns available. Ultimisia has her EX, which she goes, I have 3 turns available, etc. So, and like, Hope is actually a very strong character for this. A lot of clears of Sin for this have Hope with them, because Hope can use Shell, his C65, things like that, to just instant turn, instant turn, instant turn. And the more characters you have that can do things like that, the easier you're going to find this fight. Burst phases, obviously very helpful here, but you're going to want to try and make sure that whenever that aura goes up, and you can tell it's telegraphed as well, as I've shown in the infographic just now that Tombury Troop very kindly posted up, it happens at 80%, 50% and 30% HP, so you can know when to expect those auras, so you know when to save those LDs or EXs and C65s, etc., and when you need to use them. But once you've gotten past all of that, it's just a case of spacing yourself out and making sure that your turn orders are in a good place. Faster characters are going to be really good here. Aerith stops them from buffing themselves and makes it so that you've got a character that's very fast with her HP pluses. The fact that she can keep your bravery safe. She's got healing in her kit. She's another really strong one as well. But realistically, as long as you're taking non-elemental magic damage dealers, you can actually take physical damage dealers as well, but obviously those don't really cater to the orb, and they drop their defenses. Like Sephiroth Burst is another way you could do it if you do it early, because if you get their turn far away enough before the HP threshold, then that's going to give you more time to then take those 8 turns so that it gets rid of the aura again. But it's a risky way of doing it. So like I said, the main sort of 2 characters that jump to mind are going to be Terra and Ultimisia, but there are other ways of doing it. So now we come to the big question, of course, should you be pulling for Terra? Honestly, this comes down to whether you like big damage numbers or not. Like, if you need an update to your damage dealing, Terra is a damage dealer, and she's very good at it. Like, she takes a lot of turns, she does a lot of damage within those turns. She's got a lot of similarities to Lightning and Varn, like kind of combining a lot of elements of them together. Like, she gets 4 free turns on her LD use. She gets a bunch of like free skills from her LD use. She doesn't have any of the nuance that Lightning has. Like, she doesn't have like the re-break capabilities. She doesn't sort of like have the thunder damage part of it. But she just does a lot of damage. Like, she just hits like a bus, and that's what she does. She looks super complicated. She really isn't. She's actually one of the most simple characters out there. So you might like that. The fact that it's like, I like her magic stacks being high because they mean I do more damage. That's pretty much it. So whether you want her or not is gonna come down entirely to whether you just want an update to what damage you can deal, particularly in the magic field. Basch, on the other hand, like, Basch is really good. Like, he isn't on his own when it comes to tanking. He's very capable of, like, and he has his own niche as well as an AoE damage mitigator. He reduces bravery and HP damage that he takes, and then the AoE damage that you would take, it gets redirected to him instead. And he's practically immortal. I said invulnerable earlier, I meant immortal, because of his indomitable buff. And now it lasts longer, and it hits twice, and he's got a bravery damage increase, so he pulls his weight a lot better than you would think, and he does have his little niche. But there are other tanks that you can take nowadays, where, you know, Basch was one of the first tanks of that caliber, like during the Lufenia era, and he's not alone anymore. Like, if you have Gladio and Celeste, or either or, the need for Basch is lessened. Like, he's still really good, but honestly, at this point in time, certainly in my opinion, if there's a banner that one can skip, I think it's a good idea to do so, because banners are so demanding nowadays, and we got a batch with Garland coming up in a few weeks, and I'm personally saving up hard for that. And even with Terra, like, Terra's great. Her damage is massive. She is just damage. She's very good at it, but that's it. That's all she does. Like, she does have her little debuffs, I'll give her that. She has her defense and speed downs, and she definitely pulls her weight, because like I said earlier, just because a character is just a damage dealer, that doesn't mean it's a bad thing. Sometimes simple is good, and I would definitely like to pick up her LD personally, because I think that it's that strong. But I think that there are players out there that can skip her, like, and feel okay about it. but I also think there are characters that couldn't live without her. So I think that she's definitely more on the line than certain other burst characters. Like, she's not as much a must-pull as Lightning was when she came out, but she's still extremely powerful. And then finally, it's time for Would You Pull, the section of the video where you, the viewer, get your chance to let your voice be heard and let everybody know whether you would or wouldn't pull on a given banner and why. And once again, a massive thank you goes out to all of my patrons for casting their votes and, of course, their comments as well. I wish I could feature everybody's comments now, but obviously it would make the video like an hour long at this point, so I do have to pick and choose some, unfortunately. But thank you all very much. I'm actually quite surprised at the results of this, to be honest. Like, I thought that it would have been more on the yes side of things, and I'm actually quite shocked that it's not. Because 28% of people said they were going to use gems, which I honestly thought was going to be higher. Like, I honestly thought that people were going to go, yep, Terra, give it to me. I thought because damage dealers are the most exciting characters, even if they're the most linear, and Terra is a very popular character as well, I honestly thought this number was going to be higher. 44% of people said they were going to use more than 100 tickets though, so people still want her. And then 19% of people said they were going to use less than 100 tickets, and 9% of people said that they weren't going to be pulling at all. Now, as I said, I'm going to go in with tickets on this one. I really hope that for once the banner is nice to me, because even in my week off, I spent 50k on Trey, spent enough on Sarah and didn't get her, unfortunately. I skipped Waka, no Ishtola burst. I'm like, come on, game. But let's go into the comments, shall we? Now, Goose here says 200 tickets for me. As a pure damage dealer, I've long suspected that Terra's been a bit overhyped for the past few months. But there's one big mustache/reason I'd like to grab her LD, and it's Yang. With their Turn Hog follow-up synergy, all you need is Sarah and a healing call to smash through even the biggest HP pools, add a Garland friend into the mix, and you got a stew going. This sounds delightful, like, I have to say. Like, I mean, like I said, I did mention Yang earlier, but like I said, he has like a follow-up attack after an ally or enemy or anything turn, but it only lasts for a short while of his turn, so you need characters like Terra to make the most of it. But if you've got Sarah or like Cecil or Balthea or a aura-based character that can deal a large amount of damage, or get your other character to deal a large amount of damage, and you got Terra going off with all of these follow-ups and stuff going on, it is an incredibly large amount of damage. Biridan says, Terra was the first character I played that felt strong to me. I had her paired with Golbez and Cyan for all of Act 1 when I started playing the game. Given that, plus my love for FF6 means it's an easy gem pull for me. I'm going to be happy to see Terra putting up those big numbers in line with the current power creep. As for Basch, I kinda want him, but he is getting overshadowed. If I get Terra's LD early, I could switch over to him for her BT, but as I'm also planning gems for Mog, and I believe her burst is there too, I'm reluctant to spend more gems than needed. Terra's burst is with Mog, and is also with Deuce and the Mid-Italian's Lost Chapter. My personal preference, and I'm not saying this is the same for everybody, I aim to get Terra's LD here. I have actually considered using burst tokens on Terra, but I'm probably not going to because I'd rather wait for Garland, and because I don't plan on pulling on any of her other banners. I will spoil that for you guys now. I don't plan on pulling on any of her other banners. I already have a Mid-Italian. I don't really feel the need to pick up Deuce or Mog, but I know Mog is very popular, so there are going to be a lot of players that want him because he's Mog. So I'm personally kind of putting all of my eggs into this banner, but because I've been spending gems a lot recently, I really don't want to spend more. Doma Dragoon says, I haven't had a chance to use Terra with up-to-date equipment since the good old chant days. I remember those days. I can live without, but I'm hoping with 150 tickets or so I don't have to. I have everything on Basch's side of the banner, but the extended duration of Indomitable alone is worth the LD board points. I think if you already have Basch, it's great that he's gotten an update, and I think it's really lovely that you can have a reason to start using him again. But I do think that using resources on him if you have access to other tanks might not be prudent, at least unless you've gotten Terra first. And yeah, Terra, like I said earlier, the number of changes that she's had since her initial release, like back when the game first came out, they're not even the same character at this point. It's quite entertaining. And then finally, Spickle says I should be using up to 100 tickets. Terra's LD is great and her rework really elevates her. I plan on going for Yang as well, and Terra and Yang work really well together. I've had a mixed luck month in April, however, so I feel I shouldn't go further than 100 tickets. I've had terrible luck this past month, and I still think I'm probably going to use more than 100. Hopefully I won't have to, but like, it would be very nice. But I think that just I don't think it's all about Yang. I just think that having a character that is a pure damage dealer can actually be a good thing. Like yes, it's simple, yes, it's linear, but there's nothing wrong with that. If she's pulling in the numbers, she's doing the work, and I think there's a lot to be said for that. So that's it for today's video. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. Thank you all once again, especially to my patrons for casting their votes and their comments on would you pull, etc. And let me know in the comments below if you're planning on pulling for Terra or Basch, and let me know if you were as surprised by the would you pull as I was, because I honestly thought more people were going to go in with gems. Maybe everyone's in the same position as me, where they've spent loads recently and don't want to keep spending, or maybe everyone's looking forward to Garland. You tell me. Anyways, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and click that bell for notification of any future videos I might be making, and I look forward to seeing you soon. So thank you very much for watching. I'll tell you then. Take care.